Welcome, everybody. I want to introduce our next guest. We have Rohini Gill, who is going to be talking to us today about effective career advice and the impact on the well-being of our young people. Definitely something that I know that we're really, really passionate about at Dubai English Speaking College and the UAE Careers community. I want to give a big shout out to our partner schools who are collaborating with us today to ensure that everybody gets to have an amazing day on this platform. A big shout out goes out to Curtin University Dubai for supporting and collaborating. Dubai English Speaking College, of course, I'm very proud to be representing desk today. We have Heartland International School, Al Diyar International School in Fujairah, and RAC Academy out in Al Quwain. Today we're going to be speaking with Rohini. Rohini is a firm believer in human resources and finance. She believes that these are the backbone of every organization, being extremely passionate about improving the bottom line through the upskilling of graduates, organizational restructuring, and developing, implementing realistic KPIs. Rohini looks at HR practices through an analytical and, dare she say, business viability lens. Having worked with investment banking, initially as a credit analyst before moving on to restructuring and syndication, where she developed her interest in building a sound and robust people culture. She's seen an impact from the numbers of perspectives. She's a true HR business partner with expertise in the full spectrum of HR management, from restructuring organizations to providing day-to-day HR support and counsel to minimize any HR related risk to the organization. Employee engagement, succession planning, and getting recruitment right are very close to Rohini's heart. She believes that employees and their overall well-being is instrumental to an organization's growth. And she is involved in a lot of pro bono work, like you are here with us today, to empower women across the world. Rohini Gill has a motto: she believed she could, and so she did. Did she ever? Welcome, Rohini. What a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be here. One of the main things that's probably not on my LinkedIn yet is I'm a big believer in helping the next generation, empowering. I say kids, they're not kids anymore, young people, young ladies, young men, to be the best they can. And that's really, really close to my heart. So that's why I'm here. And thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here.
Such a pleasure to have you here. And I'm gonna zoom out into the background. I am here. I'm gonna keep my eye on the chat box just to let everybody know, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Use the reactions. Let's give Rohini some love through her talk to make sure that we all let her know what an amazing speaker she is today. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So I'm going to hover back and let you take center stage, Rohini.
That's fine. Before you go, Maria, how do I'm useless with technology, 100% useless. How do I share my screen again?
Go down to the little box that has an arrow pointing upwards, and you click on that and you can share your screen.
I can't see it. There's a video and then there's a more. I did share it beforehand. Oh, goodness. Here we go.
There we go.
Thank you. I am completely useless with technology. Right, gang. My name is Rohini Gill. Maria's given me a fantastic introduction. Thank you for that. As I said before, I'm here because I believe in helping the next generation as much as I can, and I'm hoping that by sharing some of the experiences, I suppose, I've had, I can use those to explain why and how career advice is important, and also its effect on mental well-being. Okay. Now, it's my understanding that the audience today are secondary school students, and university students. I see Mary's here, so I'll put her in the anyone else category. But the talk is really geared towards the first two, okay? Now, why is career advice important? It's something that we hear about all the time, don't we? Career services, career advice. Back in my time as a student, which was a very long time ago now, career advice was not as readily available as it is today. We stumbled upon it. We didn't have any career coaching sessions. I was lucky. I came from a family where academia was very important, and I got some from my mum and my grandfather. But a lot of my friends, career advice was something that it was, you just kind of stumbled upon it. I'll give you an example. You want to be a doctor? You do sciences. You want to be an accountant? You do maths, economics. And I've chosen these two because careers weren't what they are today. My son is 15 and he talks about all these fantastic jobs, and that his friends and him, they're kind of working towards a career and all sorts of things. Whereas in my time, that wasn't the case. People stumbled upon it later, but it wasn't one that they actively worked towards. What did that kind of do to us? I suppose a lot of my peers, they went on after school to university if they could, or BTech or whatever, some sort of higher education, or not. And then they just took it one day at a time. There were a few that went down the graduate management route, but mostly it was just like, oh, okay, well, I've done A-levels now, or IB. Well, there was an IB in my time. I've done A-levels, now what next? Oh, I like economics. Let me do an economics degree. That's what happened. And that, I suppose, created a lot of anxiety and not knowing where we are headed. We were all very ambitious, I suppose. And so we know we wanted to do well, but we didn't know how we were going to get to where we wanted to get. So it's a very different kind of anxiety, and then one, I suppose, that we at the time, we didn't know it was anxiety. We just kind of thought, oh, I feel a bit apprehensive, and we'd carry on the day. But now looking back at it, I would say to you, yes, a lot of us did get anxiety because we didn't know where we were headed. Now, I have touched upon mental well-being, I suppose, or anxiety, as I've just said. Now, the talk is all about mental well-being and why it's important with career advice and so on and so forth. What is mental well-being? According to one of the reports I've read, it says your mental well-being is about your thoughts and feelings and how you cope with the ups and downs of everyday life. And that's exactly it when I refer to that feeling that a lot of us had, that we didn't know where we were headed. I suppose our mental well-being was affected. And again, and the same article, they went on to say, it's not the same thing as mental health. There's a lot of awareness about mental health, isn't there? There's not so much about mental well-being, and not as much as I'd like to see with young men and young ladies, 14, 15 onwards, where you're making really important decisions. So I suppose mental well-being is something that we need to look at very closely when we're looking at giving a career advice, seeing why it's important, but also taking career advice. It shouldn't be, oh, I have to do this. I suppose we need to understand that if we do have sound career advice, it does impact our mental well-being, and if we don't, it does too. Right. I think I've missed this. Yeah. So career advice and impact on mental well-being. Now, what does it do? Career advice will give you direction. As I said to you, it's very much like going out for a walk and not knowing what direction you are walking in. Leads to anxiety, apprehensiveness, call it whatever you want. But also imagine just leaving the house, you're casually going for a walk and you keep walking, and every so often you'll wonder, well, why am I walking? What direction am I walking in? What am I hoping to achieve? Which kind of is very similar to your career, is if you don't have direction, you'll just keep walking. And sometimes you'll stop and you'll say, well, hang on, why am I on this path? What am I doing here? Where do I hope to be at some point? And having sound career advice at at GCSEs, at A levels, IB stages, it gives you that direction. So when it's given you that direction, you're able to form goals. Now I'll give you an example. Say you want to, I don't know, because I'm a numbers person, say you want to be an accountant. And you then know, well, this is where I want to be in 5 years or 10 years. Now, if I want to get there, then I need to work backwards, which means for GCSEs, I need to do maths and further maths. So you've set a goal, you concentrate only on that goal. What that does do, it gives you a small win. So you've, as soon as you're doing your GCSEs or you've passed your GCSEs, one tick goes up and it's a win. It's a win towards getting to where you want to get. And then it goes back to the whole one step at a time. Now to be able to formulate this plan, I call it a career development plan, a development plan, call it whatever you want. We end up self-assessing. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? I go back to accounting. I want to do accounting. Let me make a plan. Now I might turn around and say, well, I'm fantastic with numbers, but I'm not that great with interpersonal skills, but I need them to be able to do accounting. So one can then formulate a development plan, which I suppose focuses on how to strengthen the development areas. And once you've got that development plan, again, it's a small win, goes back to that small win. It goes back to getting another tick towards your final destination. I've touched on emotions a little bit before, and I touched about anxiety and things like that, but also what not knowing where one is heading gives us is insecurity. Again, as I said, you're going for a walk, you don't know where you are headed. So you will at some point say, well, hang on, why am I there? And insecurity, anger. If we're not in control because you're going for this walk, it's very normal, I suppose, to get angry about it, get fearful about it. And all these things then affect our mood, they affect our well-being. Whereas if you have that little plan and you can keep ticking the small boxes, it positively impacts our well-being. Now I speak about this development plan here. So after we've self-assessed, we're aware of our strengths and weaknesses, and we make this development plan. So fantastic. I've got a development plan. Now what? What do I do with it? Yes, it's this fantastic 2-page thing. I know where I'm going to be. I know what I need to work on, but how do I do it? Now, what next? So again, how will you get a chance to work on these areas of development? I touched upon communication, interpersonal skills. So there's internships. You can easily go work with interns. As an intern, there's a lot of these internships coming about now. But 5 years ago, it wasn't the case in Dubai, but slowly we're seeing a lot more organizations offer internships. volunteering. Again, there's a lot more young people involved in volunteering. Mentoring and coaching. A lot more young people are involved in coaching kids or children. And again, these, if I go back to my interpersonal skills that I touched upon previously, all of these will help tremendously in enhancing that. Now, Maria very kindly introduced me, and then she said that I was an HR person, which is exactly what I do now. It's very important for me to tell you that as HR, we can see from a CV, and you're going to laugh at this because the CV is just a document, but we can see from a CV students that had development plans and those that didn't have a development plan. And you might turn around and say, how? We can see internships, but internships with a purpose, not internships in completely diverse industries, diverse roles, which again is fine if it if it's a part of your development plan and you're ticking off skills that you want to develop. But if they're all just completely random, we can tell, well, this person's got the will, they've done all these internships, but we can't see a thread that's joining it. And that's how we recognize the difference. Now, another question you might ask is, well, what impact does this have on an application? A huge impact. In today's day and age, and more so going ahead in the next 10, 15 years, competition's getting steeper. So even when you go for a graduate, apply for a graduate program right after university, you want to have the upper hand. And these internships, this development plan will give you that upper hand. I run quite a few management programs, graduate management programs in Dubai and Sharjah. And we can see, even before we call someone in, we know where somebody's had a definite career plan. And when we interview people, of course, the mental well-being comes across. So going back to why you should have a career development, or why you should take advantage of the career advice that's been given today, is not only because it gives you direction and it helps you get to where you want to be, but it helps tremendously with your well-being. Now, I've got a small slide here about being in control and mental well-being. One of the biggest things that I found, even with working with the graduates like I do, is the graduates that weren't in control of their career. So yeah, from any point, and their impact, and that impact on mental well-being was quite a bit, was quite a bit, because if we're in control, we're in the driving seat. And then that has a huge impact on how we see ourselves, I suppose. And with having a career plan or a development plan, so as I call it, again, you've got the one step at a time, you've got the tangible results, you can tick them off. It will lead to reduced anxiety, and improved mood. Teenagers, I suppose, have, and we've all been through this, have enough on their plate with hormones and moods. And the last thing you want is something like careers adding to the anxiety or to the moods. So that's really it, I suppose. Has anyone got any questions?
Thank you, Rohini. That was an incredible talk. I really enjoyed and appreciated. It sounded like you're really talking from the heart, and going back to how you introduced yourself and the work that you do in supporting the youth. It really came across in your talk here with us today. I can see a question being typed through the chat box now. As we're waiting for that to come through, Maureen, keep typing in. I can see you started typing, but it only a part of it came through. If you just finish typing it, we'll definitely ask. Rohini, you were mentioning what you see in HR with students. What would you say your top 3 tips would be for a parent supporting their children through this career discovery phase?
Support. My mum was told by an old principal of mine that no finger is the same. Same one hand, different fingers. And that's the same thing with children and careers. There is no right, there is no wrong. And I suppose as a parent, I would say support. It's a child's life. They're not there to do what we want them to do. And then once children see that complete support from a parent, it gives them confidence.
Of course.
And
Yes,
I think that would be number 1. Number 2 would be to listen to them. And it's something I don't do as much as I should with my team, but listening to them is huge. And we pick up on little things. And 3 is putting no pressure on them. Again, it goes back to the same support thing, but I think putting no pressure on what we perceive is right or wrong is important.
Great tips, great tips. I can see Maureen put her question in. She says, do you have any tips to help with mental well-being and careers choice?
I'm not sure I know exactly what she means there.
Maureen, if you can give us some more details, or Maureen, if you unmute yourself and you can ask your question directly.
Absolutely.
What I mean is, like, do you have any tips to do when we're like choosing our careers, and like if someone's very stressed about it, do you have any tips?
I do, my lovely. I do.
That was a great question, Rohini. I just have to give Maureen a shout out. I believe Maureen is one of our younger students, so I just want to give her a big shout out. It takes a lot of confidence to ask questions on these digital platforms. But I'll leave it over to you, Rohini, to answer Maureen's question.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic question. And I think the number 1 tip would be not to put pressure on yourself, if that makes sense, right? So go with what you enjoy. I'm not a careers advisor, and I know you'll have access to qualified careers advisors. So I don't want to say something that's, I suppose, not the right thing to say. But my advice as a professional would be to go with your strengths and build on them. I'll give you my example. I'm hopeless. I'm hopeless with art. I love it, but I'm hopeless. Now, if I'd chosen to be an artist, I would have put a lot of undue pressure on myself. So that would be my tip to you. Find your strengths, then see, do you enjoy them? I mean, numbers could be your strength, but you actually hate them. And then build on it. If you find your strengths and you don't enjoy number 1, find your second one. You could be a great writer and you enjoy it, build on it. And when you're choosing careers, don't choose something you don't enjoy, well, that you're not good at, or you have an aptitude and you don't enjoy. These 2 things. Somebody once said, and I can't remember who it was, said, if you do what you enjoy, and I can't paraphrase it word for word, you will never work a day in your life. So I guess that's getting it right. I've got a little story for you. I was an investment banker and I left it about 15 years ago to go into HR. I loved doing it when I was there. I did very well in it. And then I stopped enjoying it as much. That for me was time to move on. So I took what I had learned, I took what I was good at, and I added to it, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Maureen, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome.
So much. You know, Rohini, just in hearing Maureen's voice, it reminded me why today's a really special day, and helping young people across the country at at the various different schools. You know, it really brings it into perspective, having this question in because as parents, as educators, as practitioners, we forget how vulnerable young people are. And I think many times we are advising them, hoping for the best, but we forget how vulnerable they are. And it's so important. It's only when you hear their voices and asking those questions that you really take a moment to reflect on how important it is to ensure that their well-being is taken care of as we're helping them to make those choices. What are some of the examples that you see in adults in the workplace for those adults who, like you said, didn't have career support and are now working, doing jobs that they feel they have to, but not necessarily thriving at because they don't really enjoy them?
Well, that's it. They don't get to their full potential. And everyone has different potential. So it's not everyone get to director level, but they don't get to their own full potential. And that's something we see a lot. As HR, we then sit down and have a chat with them and we're like, well, you have a lot more potential. You're not getting there. What is it? And that's what good HR should do. So we see a lot of that. We see they're just not. So yes, they're performing adequately enough to get by day to day. Again, mental well-being is compromised. It's, you know, they will on a Saturday night or a Sunday night start getting anxiety because they don't enjoy it.
Mm.
And we've all seen colleagues come into work after a weekend or a holiday with long faces, and we've seen some that jump into work. Whilst I don't think I jump into work early in the morning, I dread to think that I walk in with a long face. So I guess it's somewhere in the middle.
Thank you so much, Rohini. That was an incredible talk. I can't see any more questions coming through the chat box, so we will bring it all to a wrap. Rohini, if you stop sharing your screen, we can all have a last look at you. And I want to really thank you and thank everybody for being here today. It has been an incredible day, and today could not be possible without incredible speakers like yourself, Rohini. This was just so inspiring to listen to you. You come to us with so many incredible recommendations from people here in the community, and I think it's really an honor. I know that one of my colleagues, I'm going to give her a shout out, Joanne. I'm not going to say her surname just in case she doesn't want me to, but my colleague Joanne has been talking to me about meeting Rohini and talking to Rohini, and you've really inspired her, and I can see lots of communication in our community. And Mary, who's part of our core community, Mary comes to us from one of our collaborating schools. She's talking to us from Heartland International School, and she highly recommended. So it was such an honor to meet you here today, and
pleasure.
And talking to us. And that brings us to the end of an incredible conversation. We met with Rohini Gill, I'm sorry I mispronounced that at the beginning, who I really appreciated your perspective, because we're preparing young people for work, and Rohini is in the HR department where, you know, all of our young people are going to be meeting one day and being interviewed by. So it was such an incredible experience to be here. Thank you everybody for joining.
A pleasure.
Thank you for being here.